The city was just waking up. The early sun stretched across dusty streets, painting long shadows of kiosks and bicycles leaning against cracked walls. Vendors were setting up their stalls, ranging tomatoes and onions, while thesmol, a fried dough, drifted into Thier. It was that fragile hour when Theocity feels quiet, as if holding its breath before the day begins. Ibrahim Traoré's convoy rolled slowly down the main street. He had just returned from an early security inspection at Thecity's edge. His guards scanned every corner, but Ibrahim's eyes searched for something else. He wasn't looking for threats. He was watching life itself. Then his gaze stopped. At the roadside, a little girl was walking, her steps low and heavy. She couldn't have been more than 10. On her back, clinging weakly, was her younger brother, barely 4 years old. His head drooped on her shoulder, his body pale and fragile. The girl's face was smudged with dust and wet with tears, but her eyes held a fierce determination. She kept whispering maybe to her brother, maybe to God. Every few steps she wiped her cheeks, trying to hide the sobs that still escaped. Ibrahim leaned forward. Something inside him twisted. "Stop, Thacker," he ordered. The convoy screeched to a halt. Guards tensed, scanning Theth Street. Passers-by stopped, murmuring, some curious, some nervous. But Ibrahim had no eyes for them. He stepped out without hesitation. The girl froze. She looked up at the tall man in a red beret walking toward her. She didn't know who was, only that he was coming closer. Ibrahim knelt, lowering himself to her level. His voice was soft. "Little one, why are you crying? Why do you carry your brother like this?" Her lips trembled. At first she said nothing, unsure if she should answer, but there was no anger in his face, unlike compassion. At last she whispered, "My brother is very sick. I took him to the small hospital near our home, but they said they cannot treat him. Told me to take him to the big hospital in Thecity, but it is far and I have no money, not even for transport." She pressed her hand on her brother's leg, her voice cracked. "He keeps getting worse. I didn't know what to do." Street Gruziland. People leaned in, listening. Ibrahim's jaw tightened. Reports of the suffering had reached him before, but seeing it here from the mouth of a child pierced deeper than any document ever cowled. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "There is no time to waste. Come, we are going to the big hospital now." Before she could react, Ibrahim lifted the boy from her back into his arms. The child's tiny body seemed so fragile against his strength, turned to his guards.
Right.
Quickly, within moments, Vigor and her brother were seated inside the convoy. Ibrahim sat beside them, the hum of the engine filling the silence. The girl's small hands fidgeted in her lap. She glanced at him, unsure. Her voice barely more than a whisper. "Sir, why are you helping us?" Nobody else stopped. Ibrahim met her eyes. His reply was simple, yet heavy with truth. "Because our brother's life matters. Because our tears matter. And because no child's hold walk alone carrying pain like this." Her lips trembled, tears spilling gain. But this time, they carried a flicker of hope. Ibrahim leaned slight like Lozer, his tone soft. "What is your name, little one?" She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "Salamata," she whispered. Then resting her hand gently on her brother's thin arm, shedded, "This is Solane." Ibrahim repeated the names quietly, as if sealing them into memory. "Salata Solane. Today you are not alone." The girl's breath hitched. For a moment, she stared at him as if testing whether his words were real. Then she nodded, clutching her brother. "Closer," Ibrahim's voice lowered. "Where are your parents?" Salamata's lips pressed tight. Silence hung in the air before her small breaking voice filled it. "My father. Headied. There was an accident. His head was badly injured. We rushed him to the hospital. At first, they gave him some injections and tried to keep him awake. But when his condition worsened, they didn't have the right equipment to help him. The doctor later said he might have needed surgery, but they couldn't get tools or staff in. By then it was too late." Her little hands trembled as she wiped her tears, trying to steady herself. "My mother. She works in people's houses. She doesn't even know I brought Sully here today. If she knew, she would cry too." She always say hospitals only take money, and still let poor die. Ibrahim's chest tightened. This was more than a single tragedy. It was the silent story of thousands. A Monwo might have lived gone because of delay. A child carrying her brother through the streets because no one else would. His jaw clenched, his fist curled in his knee, his thoughts sharp as steel. This morning will not pass without change. The convoy sped through the streets, engines roaring against the silence of his resolve. And in that moment, Ibrahim knew this was not just another inspection. This was the beginning of something far greater. The convoy screeched to a halt at the city's largest hospital. Dust swirled as Ibrahim stepped down, the sick boy limp in his arms, Salamata clutching his sleeve with trembling fingers. Gasps rippled through the courtyard. Nurses froze mid-step. Patients stared wide-eyed. Guards stiffened in confusion. Few had ever seen the president like this. No speeches, no distance. Only a man carrying a dying child. Ibrahim didn't stop. His boots struck the tiled floor in steady, urgent rhythm as he pushed it through the emergency entrance. The air hit him like a wall. Disinfectant mixed, wet, fear, and exhaustion. Corridors overflowed with families. Amather fanned her feverish. Baby with a scrap of cardboard. A young man clutched a prescription, his eyes empty, medicina would never afford. An old man cowed weakly in the corner, ignored as nurses rushed by with overloaded trays. Ibrahim's chest tightened. This wasn't a hospital, it was survival by chance. He marched to reception. This boy needs urgent treatment now. The receptionist leaped up, her chair toppling backward. Her eyes flicked from the boy's pale face to the unmistakable red beret. Yes, Excellency. Doctor scrambled forward. The boy was lifted onto a stretcher. Salamatata tugged at Ibrahim's sleeve, her voice a whisper drowning. In fear? Will he be okay? Ibrahim bent down, his voice steady. Salam is not alone anymore. He will be treated, I promise you. For the first time, she gave a tiny nod, her lips pressed tight. Minutes later, Dr. Kano tapered, sweat glistening on his brow, a chart clutched tightly in his hands. His voice carried the weight of Fex's house. Excellency, the boy has Xavier, pneumonia. His lungs are failing. He needs oxygen immediately and constant monitoring. Salamatata's grip on her brother's hand tightened. Ibrahim's eyes narrowed. Then give him oxygen, Hess said firmly. The doctor hesitated, throat bobbing. Excellency, we have 5 oxygen cylinders in this hospital. Tonight, every single one is all ready. In news, normally we don't see this man of critical patients, but today's different. There are too many. Ibrahim's stone sharpened. And if another patient Toriv's gasping for breath, what do you do then? The doctor swallowed hard. Wayne's answer was barely a whisper. We wet transfer them to the referral hospital 2 hours away. Sometimes they make it. Often they don't. The corridor went still. Families shifted uneasily. Nurses looked away. Everyone knew this truth, but to hear it spoken aloud was like a reopening an old wound. Ibrahim's jaw tightened. His voice dropped to a dangerous calm. Do you know what this girl told me? He gestured towards Salama. Her father died in a hospital. Do you understand why? Because you had nothing. And now, you want to tell Harrigan that her brother cannot be saved? Konate's lips trembled. Excellency, there is one more place, the emergency ward. It has 2 cylinders reserved. Buth faltered, glancing nervously at their guards. That ward is only for soldiers wounded from the battlefield. It is protocol. The corridor froze. Ibrahim's face hardened, voice low and cutting. So a soldier's breath is worth more than this. Boys, you call this Apopol's hospital, yet you shut the door on children because their father's aeronaut in uniform? No one answered. Their heads in shame. Ibrahim's voice rose like thunder. If oxygen exists in this building, then it belongs to every life, soldier or child. From this moment, that ward is not the army salon. It belongs to Burkina Faso. Unlock it. He pressed his phone into Nurse Amina's hands. Call the director. Use my emergency code. Open the locket storeroom. Open the emergency ward. Ifanyone questions. You, send them to me. Amina was already dialing. Ibrahim turned to Conite, voice firm and relentless. You are a doctor. You Swereto heal. Borrow tanks from surgery, move machines from empty wards, call every technician in this hospital. If something breaks, fix it with your hands. I will take responsibility. Then louder, so every patient, every family could hear. From this night forward, under my order, no patient leaves this hospital untreated base of nothing.
Not one.
The word spread through the corridor like fire. Minutes later, the emergency ward squeaked open. A heavy oxygen cylinder rolled out, its wheels clanging against the tiles. Technician Musa arrived, toolbox swinging. His first battle was with a stubborn valve that refused to budge. Sweat poured as he wrestled it. Conate steadied the boy's airway, ice flicking nervously. Finally, with a loud snope, the valve gave way. Oxygen hesitative. Almost at once, the regulator sputtered and leaked. Panic flared until a nurse leapt forward, hands trembling but steady, replacing the fittings. The heat smoothed into a steady stream. First time that night, the boyishest rose easier. The fight wasn't over, but hope had entered the ward. Doctors moved quickly. Nurses cooled his fever with damp cloths. For lines were rechecked again and again, families, you surround whispered prayers.
Out, some openly weeping at the sight of their president sitting among them.
Not as a distantular, but as a man waiting and hoping like any other father or brother. Ibrahim refused to leave. He sat in the waiting area, Salamata leaning against his shoulder, her small frame heavy with exhaustion. Every soufan she stirred. Is he better yet? She whispered. And every time, Ibrahim gave the same steady reply. He's stronger. Hold on to that. At one point he rose to fetch her a cup of water. His guards exchanged glances. They had never seen him like this, pacing like a worried relative in a hospital corridor. Near midnight, Nurse Amina emerged. Her shoulders sagged, but her face carried a faint smile. Excellency, he's stable. The fever has broken. His breathing is steady. He'll oxygen for days, but for now, he is safe. Salamata gasped, tears spilling as she flung her arms around Ibrahim. Thank you, Knolt, resting his hand on her head. Heist's words were simple, but they struck deep. You carried him here? Without you, who will not have lived? You saved him. Around them, the staff stood silently. Some wiped their eyes. Others stood taller than before. Tonight, they had worked harder than in months, not from fear of punishment, but because Sethi felt they were not alone. Ibrahim turned to his guard. Stay with them. Make sure they have medicine, food, and a bed. Until the boy recovers, they are under our protection. The guard nodded. Amina scribbled quick orders, securing supplies from the storeroom. As Ibrahim stepped toward the exit, Amina caught his sleeve. Her voice dropped low, honest, and desperate. Excellency, Araxagan supply is running out. Tonight. Weberode and patched. Tomorrow, others may come, and we will have nothing. Her words weren't political. They were theory truths of someone who had fought too long with too little. Ibrahim met her gaze. He didn't answer there. Carried the weight with him as heckled back into the convoy. That night he had saved one chill, but Waith had seen in. Those walls, these shortages, the broken systems, the abundant families, lit a fire in him deeper than anger. It hardened Intersolve. This was no longer about one word, one family, one night. This weighs about a nation. That night, the palace seemed brighter than ever, but heavier too. Chandeliers blazed across polished marble, yet the light felt cold. Around the council table, ministers and generals sat stiff-backed, their files stacked neatly, but their eyes restless. They had all seen Ibrahim return from the hospital with something sharp in his gaze. The doors swung open. Guards rose. Ministers pushed back their chairs. Ibrahim walked in, red beret in hand, dust from the city still on his boots. He gave no nod, no smile. Sit, he said simply. The room obeyed. When Thessalians settled, Ibrahim leaned forward, both hands flat on the table. His voice was calm. It's calm this morning. Saw a 10-year-old girl carrying her brother Becca's a hospital, turned him away. Their father died in that same place, fourth, same reason. No tools, no staff, not Kuntz. Today, that boy nearly followed. That ends now. No one moved. The Minister of Health, Dr. Coulibaly, shifted uneasily. The Finance Minister Cabaret clenched his jaw. Ibrahim didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. If our children are dying at our doors, what is the point of leadership? We are not here to count excuses. We are here to protect lives. He straightened Anbegan, outlining his plan, not in vague slogans, but in sharp, practical steps. In the first 72 hours, we will mobilize all available resources. Oxygen cylinders, monitors, and essential medicines will be delivered to the hardest-hit hospitals. Military trucks will carry the supplies. And mobile eclix will be deployed in 2 regions. An emergency hotline will be activated, and police and army. Vehicles will serve as ambulances until we can bring in better equipped ones. He paused briefly, his gaze sweeping across the room before continuing. Phase 2 will begin in 12 weeks. We will conduct thorough inspections of every hospital, ward by ward. The public will see the results every week. We will publish the shortages openly. Transparency is key. Progress must be visible. Ibrahim leaned forward, his tone firm as he moved to the next phase. Phase 3, within 3 months, will focus on rapid training. We'll train paramedics and technicians at an accelerated pace. We will launch Appalot Ambulance, network in 3 provinces using what we learned to fix, and expand the program nationwide. Finally, Ibrahim's voice grew even steadier, almost resolute. In Phase 4, 1 year from now, will bring long-term change. We will pass a law guaranteeing free emergency care for children. This will not be charity. This will be sustainable funding. No child will better away. Dr. Coulibaly, his discomfort evident, cleared his throat for speaking. Excellency, the need is clear, but ventilators, trained staff, they cannot be conjured overnight. Ikno, Ibrahim replied evenly. That is, we start with what we can do tonight, and we build. Kaber leaned forward, frowning. The funds, equipment, training, wages, this will bleed Thechrasari dry. Ibrahim locked eyes with him. Then bleed the waste first. Freeze the vanity projects. Redirect contingency funds. Audit every franc. I will sign emergency transfers myself and seek partners for training. But do not tell him we cannot afford children's lives. The finance minister's hands tightened, but he did not argue. A general cleared out his throat. The army can move equipment, but we must know. Will military command hospitals? No, Ibrahim said firmly. Health belongs to civilians. Army will transport and secure, nothing more. He turned back to Coulibaly. Name a deputy by morning. First inspection report in 2 weeks. Publish it publicly. No cover-ups. Then to the whole table. Any manager who hides shortages or steals supplies. Fired, prosecuted. An oversight panel of CIV-VI.L. Society. A senior judge and Dr. Swill review reports weekly. Transparency's not optional. The room shifted. Some nodded reluctantly. Others stared at their papers. This was bigger than speeches. This was orders. Finally, Ibrahim added, his tone quieter, but chirper. Tomorrow we launch a pilot at the same hospital. Dr. Conite and Nurse Amina will run it with full support. If it fails, explain why. If it works, scale it nationwide. The health minister stood slowly. We will assemble teams tonight. Cabaret followed. Funds will bear directed, but I want a daily public command log. No more shadows. Ibrahim gave a single nod. Agreed. His voice softened now, almost a murmur, but every ear caught it. Begin with 1 hospital, 1 child. Then we build until no mother waits outside a gate, begging for help. He placed his beret back on his head. Then he left the chamber, not to applause, but to a silence that carried the weight of duty. Morning light poured into the hospital, soft and golden, carrying the hum of a city just waking. Inside, the children's ward machines beeped steadily. Nurses moved between beds with quiet focus, their faces drawn but alert. On one bed, Theboy lay asleep, his breathing slow, but stable. A faint blush of color warmed his cheeks. His sister, still in her dusty dress, had fallen asleep by Sadine, small hand clutching his wristas, if afraid he might slip away. Their mother sat close. She had arrived in the night, uniform still on, faced her with tears. When she first saw her son breathing, she had collapsed to Thefler in relief. Since then, she hadn't left his side. The ward door opened, guards stepped in. Then Ibrahim entered. The mother rose instantly, trembling. Recognition struck her. She fell to her knees, clutching his feet. "Excellency, you've saved my son. You've saved me family." Ibrahim knelt at once, lifting her up. His voice was low, steady. "My sister, do not kneel. I only did what any leader should do, serve." But she held his hand tight, words tumbling out. "You don't understand. My husband died in a hospital because there were no medicines, no machines. I thought my son would die the same way. But when I came here, he was alive because of you." The nurses nearby lowered their eyes. "Shami heave in there." Silence. Ibrahim's hand pressed firmly on her shoulder. "I understand. Salamata told me everything, and I promise you, your pain will not be ignored. No mother should run through the night wondering if her child will live or die." He turned, so his words scurried across the ward. "This woman speaks for thousands. From today, we will not accept a hospital that says we cannot. If medicine is too costly, then government has failed. If equipment is missing, then leadership has failed. That failure ends here." The mother wept quietly. "God bless you, Excellency. May he protect you as you protected us." Ibrahim crouched beside Salamata. Ho had woken and was watching silently. "Salamata, carried your brother when no one else could. You are braver than many men, I know. Burkina Faso will need leaders like you to grow into leaders." Ashy smile flickered across her tired face. Word spread quickly. "The president is here." He listened. Families fled the corridors, pressing forward. Not walk past them as a distant figure. He stopped, asked names, held hands. An old woman gripped his wrist. "Do not forget us, my son. We have been forgotten too long." He bent, kissed her hand. "Never again, Mama. Never again." Later, as the boy slept and his mother kept watch, Ibrahim stepped into the courtyard. The city stretched. Awake beyond the gates, a guard approached. "Excellency, shall we prepare to leave?" Ibrahim shook his head slowly. His eyes lingered on the crowd at the gate. "Not yet. I want to hear their stories. A leader who stays in a palace sees shadows. A leader who walks among his people, he sees the truth, and so has stayed." That morning, Ibrahim was notably a president. He was a son listening to grandmothers, a brother standing beside the sick, a father, reassuring Drin. But inside, he knew saving one child was not victory. The true battle, the rebuilding of a nation's dignity, was just beginning. The next evening, the city square was overflowing. Where our motorbees and vendors usually clogged that streets, families now proceeds shoulder to shoulder. Children climbed rooftops. Fathers stood on carts. Mothers balanced babies on their hips. Even lampposts bent under the weight aftos who refused to miss it. No posters were printed. No radio announcement had been made, but word had spread faster than fire. The president had stayed in a hospital all night for one child. When Ibrahim stepped onto the wooden stage, there was no crown, no robe, just his worn uniform and red beret. Yet the roar thought greeted him rolled like thunder, shaking the square. He raised one hand. Instantly, the noise died. Even this malice children hushed, sensing something greater than them was about to be spoken. Ibrahim began softly. "Yesterday I saw a little girl carrying your brother through the dust. Not to school, not to play, but to beg for his life." A low murmur rippled through their crowd. Mothers clutched their children tighter. Fathers exchanged dark looks. Old women shook their heads with bitter recognition. "I gave her my word," Ibrahim continued, his voice hardening. "And tonight, I give that word to all of you." He straightened. From this day, every hospital will have medicine, machines, and staff. Every child will be treated free of charge. When you call for an ambulance, it will come. And never again will a family be forced to choose between bread and medicine. For a moment, there was no cheering. Instead, a wave of silence swept the square. A nashi long buried, rising to the surface. Then mothers began sobbing openly. Fathers raised their fists. And children clapped without knowing why, only sensing history had shifted. This is not charity. Ibrahim pressed on. It is your right. Some will say it is impossible. They will ask about money. But I ask you, what is the value of money if we bury our children? We will fight corruption. We will cut waste. We will build with what we have. And together we will succeed. The chant started softly, then grew like thunder. Ibrahim, Ibrahim, Ibrahim. And then he saw her, Salamata, standing at the edge of the crowd, frozen. Ibrahim stepped down, lifted her onto the stage, and raised her small hand high. This child, Salamata, is the true hero. His voice broke with emotion. When the system failed, she refused to give up. If she found the courage to act, then surrelit together, we can find the courage to rebuild this nation. The square erupted. Applause crashed against the city walls. Chants shook the rooftops. And for the first time in years, hope did not feel like a dream. As the sun sank behind the horizon, no one doubted. This was not an ending. It was the beginning of something far greater. Weeks passed. The story of Salamata and her brother traveled, farther than radio signals told at village firesides whispered. In marketplaces, even acted out in children's games. Wherever it spread, it carried one truth. If a child could face spare with such strength, then a nation could face its future with fearsome resolve. Change began. Ambulances appeared on dusty roads once thought forgotten. Sirens no longer bellowed. Only to the rich, they wailed for the poor too. Young doctors, desperate to leave, began to stay with pride. Hospitals received long missing machines, oxygen tanks, scanners, ventilators. It wasn't instant. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. One afternoon, Ibrahim traveled quietly, not to a palace, not to a hospital, but to a modest clay home at the edge of Thessaly. No convoy, no cameras, just hymen to guards. The courtyard smelled off millet porridge cooking on a coal fire. Chickens darted between buckets. And under the shade of a neem tree, he saw them. The boy sat on the ground, cheeks full again, building a toy car from cardboard. His sister leaned close, teaching him how to fix the wheels. Their mother washed clothes in a basin, her face no longer carved with exhaustion, but softened with peace. The boy noticed him first. "It's him," he whispered. The girl ran forward, her bare feet kicking up dust. "Ibrahim, look, he's strong again." Ibrahim bent low, gathering her in his arms. He turned to the boy. "And you, little warrior, how do you feel?" Thebu grinned shilly. "Stronger? Mama says, I'll go to school soon like my sister." Their mother's eyes filled as she stood. "Excellency, we are alive because of you. I have no words." Ibrahim placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "No, sister. You were alive because you endured, because your daughter refused to give up. All did my duty." He stayed a while, sharing a meal of simple porridge, laughing as children showed him their little toys. For once he was not the president of Ingorders. He was a brother at a family's table. But as he prepared to leave, Ibrahim noticed the mother shans, raw and cracked from scrubbing clothes day and night. He thought of thousands of women like her, carrying families alone, trapped in endless struggle. He stood and spoke gently. "Sister, I will not leave you only with Maries. You deserve dignity, no Texostin." Turning to his guard, he gave quiet instructions. Within days, the mother was given stable work at the new community health center, a job fathened her strength instead of breaking it. Salamata and her brother Sully Mainwold received scholarships to continue their education free from the burden of school fees. When she heard the news, The mother sank to her knees. Overwhelmed, Ibrahim lifted her up firmly. Do not kneel before me. Stand. Your children must see their mother strong. From today, they will not only live, they will rise. As he rose to leave, Salamata tugged at his sleeve. Uncle Ibrahim, will you forget us now? Keck knelt to meet her eyes. Never. Bekasayer's story is now our nation's story. You carried your brother, and together we'll carry each other. That promise lived on, not as law written on paper, but as truth written in the hearts of thousands. And so, from the dusty roads off the city to the crowded hospital wards, one truth was written clearly. When leaders carry the burdens of Thrucist, a nation begins to rise. This story is not just about Ibrahim Traoré, about Salamata and her little brother. It is about all of us. A booth power of compassion, about the courage of a child who refused to give up, and the responsibility of leadership to never look away. Let this be our reminder. Change begins the moment we decide that no life is too small to fight for. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it forward, because the world needs more voices that carry hope instead of silence. And to you, watching until feigned, thank you. Your time, your attention, and your willingness to feel these stories means more than you know. Together, can keep alive the belief that humanity, dignity, and compassion still have the power to change lives.